Good afternoon, everybody. This is Dan Hussey from algodaytrader.com bringing you our NYSE session update. Brendan Irish did a great job today keeping our charts updated and everything while I was traveling. I want to begin with the S&P 500. Reason being is we have traded back into what we have identified, and maybe we need to take a step back to the hourly chart to really see the 18 halves. To highs. So remember, in early August, beginning of August, which by the way have been the lows for the month now, we're going to close August very likely green, just based on that fact alone, that the low of the month is the first. We have now blown through and coming up on the secondary targets of this last traditional that the market held. The 87 halves, which were the highs, have began holding extensions. They've traded once to target, twice to target, and now same anchor new highs. I want to make sure this is exactly, a perfect pull, so 78 halves to 24.75 highs. Gave us the next in the series measured move, extension long. There we go, at the 1406s. We've now traded, and for 2 days we've defended this level. We have a 4 o'clock close that is above the daily pivot, which means after hours we're supposed to look for support that'll bring us into the gap fill. Of course, 1406s remains that support level. We know that the reason, personally, I'm not worried about the short that we've now traded into, and we have held it to the tick, is the long traded first. So the market is probably going to be rather range bound now between these levels until it decides what it wants to do. But for the most part, this is actually a huge support level. I want to step back to a daily chart so that we can review last year about this time, what we were looking at in the S&P 500. So there we go. Last year's price action coming out of one sec. A little further. There we go. So this is last year's price action coming out of our what was a sell-off in late July into August. Coming off of these lows, the highs that the last pullback had made. So this is the equivalent, in my opinion, of these pullbacks here. This price action is right here, these first moves off the lows. The market began to hold extension longs, highs to highs here. You can barely see them, but it's the first first real pullback the market had. It wasn't very much. Here it was a 1330 high to a 94 pullback, traded that extension, and that was the same anchor new highs that led into the rest of the year. And then they held this larger extension later in the year, at least got free off of it. That's what I'm looking for now. Which one of these highs is going to give us the support, the extension support? And right now we're up against the first one, and we have a pretty solid close today. That candle is one hell of a daily candle. Doesn't mean we can't have a candle like this to follow it, but when I see a candle like that, I'm expecting moves like this to follow it. Look back, these long long, whatever they're called, not wicks, tails. All right, let's get back down to the 15-minute chart. So going into tomorrow, we have a gap fill to 1411.75s. The pivot is a 1410. It's a tough take if it trades, but there is, the potential for a full halfway back long off the lows. It's tough because the short traded. Very likely, and the only safe trade at this point, unless you're long 1406s or short at the short and free, is waiting for the full short to break if it does break, and then buying the pullback. Okay. Otherwise, we find ourselves actually between two very key levels. And if the short holds, then it just means the market's pulling back into a much bigger, deeper pullback. The Aussie yen, we'll get to the euro last. The Aussie yen has now, moving back out to a hourly chart here. There is an extension long that we found ourselves inside of throughout all of July. There we go. And it's drawn from the highs here at 80.90 to highs. It traded once to target. Same anchor new highs. Traded again to targets. And it wasn't until now that we've actually pulled back and actually filled the same anchor new high. Remember here we front ran it, but now pulling all the way up to highs, we traded it today. All the way up to new highs. So this to me is the next in the series extension long that is trading. And it was filled at get this right, at the 82.25s. Now, going down to a 15-minute chart, let's take a look at down from the top. What did we trade down in? Make a case for a front run of a short. Next in the series short holds. Or really, you could just say an extension short. Same anchor new low holds. One more time, same anchor new low. This time we were actually trading a traditional after the extension. Hits the 61.8 line, breaks down, goes through targets. And in my opinion, the market then traded a brand new extension short that has broken now. No matter which one of these you drew it from is now broken. And already, if we go down to now a 5-minute chart, this looks like an ambush long reversal has already traded. And it's the 82.22s to highs. I'm unfortunate I personally wasn't able to take part in this. But if you bought the 40s here, the 82.40s, you should have been able to get free off of it. And that could be the first pullback in the swing now up to actually an 84.20 target now on the Aussie yen. Okay, 84.20. The Aussie US dollar, difficult trade here. Difficult because it's, again, between a long and a short. Stepping back out to the hourly chart, let's give it a second to load here. Test. 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 Have you guys been able to hear me well through this? No response. Anyway, there is a full halfway back short that's traded now twice. This is the second time the short's trading. And then, of course, this extension long we were able to identify prior has come into support again. So just like the S&Ps, the Aussie dollar is actually caught between a long and a short, just a slightly larger. So it's going to be interesting to see which one holds on both markets, for that matter. But right now we have both of the Aussies in extension longs. There's a valid short that has traded and gotten free on the Aussie dollar. But very simply between two important levels. The extension long, we identified this yesterday, was a 102.27 to highs. That got our reaction yesterday. So a little bit of a battle over the trend here. Moving down to let's move down actually to a 5-minute chart. Coming up off the lows from this morning, we actually did hold a halfway back long to target. Next in the series long trades, holds, breaks out, and right now we're technically flagging inside of an extension long. I'm also drawing up the original pullbacks extension just to, just for good faith to see if they hold. But if this doesn't hold, actually the original extension could hold. But we're actually flagging inside of a long right now, and this long has the ability to take us up and start dipping us into the short. The short breaks at a 105.36. And lastly, the gem of today's price action, our Eurodollar longs finally hit target after 2 weeks of waiting. We have now hit targets from the 22.45s at the 25.37s. I mean, to the pip, targets have gotten hit here. That means now that this trade is over, the next in the series long is a full pullback to the 23.90s. We'll definitely be participating there. Keep in mind we did break a short in the euro. A short is now broken, so there is the possibility, and I want to draw this up on our chart here, that the market pulls into a full halfway back long, and that'd be at the 22.90s. So we're going to do a 23.90 buy on the euro here. We'll get free. We use the distance between the 61.8 line and the 50% to get free, and then we'll we'll get free. If we get stopped, then we know the 22.90s are our next buy. The 15-minute chart, breaking down the trend on a smaller time frame. Oops. There we go. We had going into this morning, we had an extension long. It was the original extension from yesterday. It held once, twice, then 3 times overnight. Has hit targets. I would not expect us to hold the same anchor new high of this extension, but hey, it's valid. And technically, we have broken out of those targets, and we've started actually a brand new extension drawn from the highs of the prior extension to new highs. It is a 24.88 anchor to highs on spot, and we're going up until we're not. We're up in we're going to be up in these extensions. A failure of this extension will ultimately very likely result in the full pullback down to the 23.90s. So there's nothing that says we can't continue on, but there is we need to be weary of a full pullback at this point. I want to take a look at the daily chart to remind us where we are in the short trend, because we are in a short daily trend. Once to target, twice to targets, and now from the 34.90 or 34.80 highs to lows, the full daily short comes in at a 27.65. So this market should be like a magnet up to that level. And if we don't, I would expect pullbacks here before we get up there, but we could just continue straight up in extensions. Okay, but a 27.65 is where the full short is in this market. And now that we've hit long targets, that's the only resistance above us. So any pullback we will assume is in profit taking. Okay, so that's all we got for you today. I hope everybody had a great day trading. I'll know this evening what the plan is for the rest of this week, but I will very likely be around for Thursday and then our half day Friday. Yeah, that's about it, guys. Hope everyone had a great day, and we'll be back with you as price action develops.